Welcome to the replay viewers. I'm back after a couple weeks here. Today I'm back again with my friend Amanda Towne, who I've had a few of these lovely conscious conversations with. One on my podcast that I was really big into last year, and then a couple of these Facebook Lives now. So Amanda's a transformational coach. In a few moments here, I'll give her a moment, just a few moments to describe herself, however she'd like to, but just from our previous chats, I know that she's a transformational coach, and I always just love what we explore and find together, like as we talk about certain topics. And it was kind of fun. Just before we started recording, Amanda was like, "It's so perfect that you reached out to me for this because, like, I wrote an ebook about overthinking." And I
Yes.
completely forgotten that, but when I just thought about it was just an intuitive thing when I was just like, who do I want to talk about this with? Just like, because I have a few people I could have asked, and just intuitively it was just like, this just feels like an Amanda conversation. And so then a few moments ago, she's like, I wrote an ebook about this. I was like, oh, I forgot. So, anyways, it's all perfect. Just another testament to how powerful intuition is. Thanks for joining us, whether you're live or on the replay. And if you don't know me, my given name is Timothy Waterman. I do like to go by my nickname these days, which is Beau. That's why you see it in the description. And I'm also a transformation guide. I also provide one-to-one channeled sessions for people where people tend to ask their biggest life questions in these sessions. That's just what I've noticed in the years I've been doing this. They just give me the biggest question that's on their table, and through the channeled connection, my heart soul connection, we just work together to help them find clarity. Clarity that feels good, relaxing, calming, helps put them more at ease in the moment by discovering that clarity that already exists within them. And it's like the channeled soul heart connection that I have just helps guide people to that place of clarity. So I've always just loved to see the difference that occurs when people have one of these sessions. They usually come in feeling overwhelmed, anxious, perplexed, confused, and then it's really cool just to see. I would say 99.9% of the time, by the end of the session, people are going like, "Oh my gosh, I feel so much better. I just feel so good." Um, and I feel relaxed. I feel more clear. So that's one of the big things I do. But then I also work with people in an ongoing way, and that's what I refer to as being a transformational guide. So yeah, if you want to know more, I have a link in the description where you can find out more about me. I also have linked Amanda's website in the description if you want to learn more about Amanda as you get to witness what she brings to the table today. So those are both in the description and available. And so, having said that, welcome. Thank you for being here again, Amanda. Real quick, I'll just say if you are watching live, we're totally open to questions live in the chat. Questions, reflections, ahas. Like, I love live interaction. That's why I do these live. They're just more fun. So just know that that's available whether you're live or you also want to add something on the replay. And having said that, yeah, I'll just toss it over to you, Amanda. And yeah, just feel free to share any words about you and how you help, and then we can dive into the conversation from there.
Yeah. Thanks, Beau. And so before I forget to mention it, I actually picked this background, this photo or this piece of art as my background today because I feel like it is this overthinking mind. And once you realize, like, it just blows your mind, kind of like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been doing for so long, and things could be so much easier. It's kind of just boom. So that's why I picked this actual artwork to put behind me today. And I got this from a friend several years ago. And I just love it because also it says to me transformation, just thinking differently than you ever have before. And a phrase that I heard one time that's stuck with me so much is healing is a change in perspective. And that to me is mind blowing, that it really is a change in perspective. And as you said, I'm a transformation coach. I work with people one-on-one. I also do groups. I'll get into that a little bit. but also in groups and one-on-ones, I use different methods. I use this calibration process to release resistance and allow emotions, and also what I call a vibrational guide. I tune into people's vibration, where they're at on different topics. So, like you said, people will come with their biggest questions, whatever they're dealing with, and I'm able to tune in where they are vibrationally and guide them to where they want to be. And it's super, super fun and so transformational. People are like, wow, they really get a perspective shift out of it. And I also I wrote a book called How to Tame Your Overthinking Mind. And I actually did this a couple of years ago because I feel like this has been one of the biggest parts of my journey, is getting out of my own analytical overthinking mind and actually working with it. So it's not an enemy. Your mind is there for you. Everything is there for you. But learning how to work with your mind, not to let your mind overpower everything, because that's the way I lived first part of my life for so long. I was in the logical mind in corporate America, being a CPA, an accountant. Everything was about numbers, spreadsheets, facts, and I could analyze something to death. I could get an analysis paralysis about things. And once you realize that, and like how, like just the spinning of the wheels, how much physical and emotional and mental energy that's taking, and realizing, oh wow, I used to have headaches a lot because I would just be
Hmm.
so stuck in my mind and caught up in my mind. And now making that transition to just allowing more ease in my life, and knowing I don't need to figure out the how. I can have a desire and let it go, and know that, I am source. I'm unconditional love. There's infinite ways for all of my desires to come to me. I don't need to know the how, and it's better when you just let go of that how, and it's so, so freeing. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. I love that. I love that. I'm glad to hear that's been the case for you. And yeah, thanks for sharing a bit of your background with the subject. It's always I continue to find this. Real quick, I'll just say hello to the live viewers and hi Armando. Thank you so much, or Armand. Thank you so much for being here and the love. I appreciate you. And I wanted to say just thank you for sharing a bit of your background on the matter, because this is what I've continued to find is that just keeps coming up is that this is just my perception at least, is that a lot of us just feel alone in the things that we're navigating. And it's like the second we hear someone else talk about it, there's such a release that comes from that. It's like, I'm not the only one.
Yes.
and
Mhm.
and there's like this relief where it's just like, yeah, it's just like this feeling less alone, feeling like it's not just you. And so uh, I continue to find it to be very powerful when people just say like, hey, like I've kind of been there in my own way. Like this has been a thing for me. I've been navigating this. And there's just something about that um, coming together and being open, vulnerable, if you want to call it, where it's just like, maybe it's just because we've all learned to be so tough on ourselves. And the second we feel like we're not the only one, like all of a sudden we become less tough on ourselves.
Mhm.
Something like that. So again, thanks for sharing your background. I'll share a little bit about mine in just a moment. But again, love you too, Armand. Thank you so much again. It's always fun to have you here, and thank you for commenting. Yeah, no, I've definitely well, there's two reasons why I wanted to do this. One, because I definitely relate to this topic as well, and two, I've just had a couple people like reaching out to me, being like, have you ever dealt with this? Like, because they just know that I show up online and I offer stuff from my path. And so people have been like, well, what about overthinking? Have you ever navigated that, I'm just like, oh my gosh, let me tell you, like, yeah, same thing. Like in my 20s, like this thing would never stop. It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
it would just be like I was like constantly trying to figure out every situation in my life. Um, and like my nerves were shot. Like my nervous system was just shot from like always like, and what about this? And what about that? And what do I do?
It's exhausting.
It is exhausting. Yeah, and that's actually what began my since we're getting into the real stuff, that's actually what began my, whatever you want to call it, self-growth journey or self-healing journey, was the thinking and the overwhelm and the worry was so much that I just said, this cannot be what life is. I said, life has to be better than my racing mind.
Yes.
I just know there has to be something better. And that's when I went down the path. One of the first things I found actually was Buddhism, because in Buddhism, they always talk about like understanding your monkey mind. And I was just like, oh, thank God, someone who's actually talking about the monkey mind. Let me see what they have to say. So, anyways, I can relate to, and it's been an ongoing thing. It's been an ongoing thing in layers. So, I can relate as well from real life experience. So yeah, just diving into more of the, I guess we'll say like the heart of the matter, or maybe the mind of the matter.
Mhm.
Uh, in this case, because we're very much talking about the head today. I'm just curious for you, Amanda, yeah, again, from your own experience, what you've just assessed over the years, why do you think overthinking has become such a default? Like, what do you think it's about?
Well, I think it's us getting into survival mode, that we
Mm,
learn to survive, or we think that's how we're surviving, is by knowing all of these different case scenarios, like you were alluding to, the what if this, what if that. And it's getting into that survival mode, and we get in this space of how we're going to protect ourselves, to be in control. A lot of us want to be in control. I know that was a lot for me, of wanting to control everything. And I felt like I was in control if I looked at something of from every angle. What about this? What about that? That in it, and of course, it gave me this false sense of control. And we're taught that way, actually, a lot by society, to use that logical part of your mind. And which is good. You want to have that. And for me, it came very easily. My mind can be very linear and logical, but when you just get stuck on that path, you close yourself off from everything else that's available. And again, it can be on that path of like, oh my God, it's just in this wheel of going and going and going. And I know I've had a lot of clients come to me also from different situations, but some from that corporate world where they use their analytical mind so much that they don't know how to turn it off.
mm,
And they get in this anxiety of feeling, some of them high level anxiety, some of them low level anxiety. And once we work through things, and they they get some peace and silence in their mind, some of them are like, oh, I didn't even really realize I was feeling anxious before, but now they see the difference, and what a difference it makes. And like I said, I know for me, it's made a huge difference in how I feel, in how I relate to people, in everything. It's made a huge difference.
mm, mm. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks for touching on the survival note. And I'll just add to that a little bit because just in examining my life, because for me, I do feel it's helpful just kind of to look at like, where did this all start for me? Just so I can understand like why I became a certain way. Because that just helps me have grace and compassion with myself, and then also be like, okay, well, I see where like my inner child or my
Mhm.
ego, personality, whatever you want to call it, is coming from. Like, oh, I see why you are the way you are. So I'm not going to make you wrong. I'm not going to like be mean to you because you are this way. But if I kind of understand why you are the way you are, like that helps me be compassionate, more understanding, and then also just more nurturing and soothing, kind of like, oh, I get it. You've been trying to do me a favor because, and
Yes.
so, but like, let me see if I can coach you and like reparent you. Uh, and so for me, I just know that as a kid, I was very empathic, like extremely empathic, very um, loving, nurturing, sensitive in the sense that I was very in my heart. And I did have a couple real life traumas, if you will. Like I was in a car accident where I actually lost my infant brother transitioned, in that accident. He was only 7 weeks old. I was also in the car, and it was like one of those things where like the car rolled, before it stopped.
Mhm.
And so I remember I was 13. I remember after that, I just like my teenage self was just like, this stuff can happen in life, like
Yeah.
this stuff can, like this kind of like chaotic, like just like, oh my gosh, out of control stuff can happen. And I remember after that moment, like my mind was like, I got to figure out how to be control in life,
Mhm.
because like this stuff is too much. Like it was just, I felt like it was too much. And so then my mind was like, okay, how do I control? How do I control? How do I control? Like how do I minimize risks? And then I also remember, again, this is just for the in the light of me having compassion for myself. I saw, again, I was very empathic, very like what's the word? Just empathic, and the other word's not coming to me. Just very sensitive, energetically and emotionally. I remember seeing the movie Speed when I was, I don't know, I must have been around the same age. And it's this scary story about like like a really like terrorist level type of thing on a bus. And when I saw that, like my young teenager was like, the world's not safe. Like the world, like there's really big threats out there. And so again, my mind was like, how do I protect myself? How do I protect, like, how do I minimize risk? And so that's where I feel like it essentially all started for me, was like
Yeah.
just seeing the world is not safe, and seeing these chaotic things could happen. And so I feel like that's where my mind started to go, and like, how do I protect myself? How do I protect myself? And again, knowing that's where it kind of all started for me, I feel like I can have more compassion. I can be like, oh, like back then you didn't feel the world was safe. Like back then you
Mhm.
felt like there was kind of like threats everywhere. Like how do I support you? How do I nurture you? How do I remind you that that was a long time ago? You didn't understand the world,
Mhm.
you didn't understand these things. And then also a big thing that's been really helpful for me is I actually had someone say it to me earlier this year, which was like a huge, like kind of like brought me to the present moment. They kind of looked at me and they're like, you're not that 13-year-old anymore.
Mm, yes,
And I
yes.
was just like, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa.
Mhm.
It kind of like got in like really deep. It's like, you're not that 13-year-old anymore. I was just like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Uh, and it was really cool because it's brought me so into the present moment, kind of
Mhm.
out of that traumatized 13-year-old. And it was just a reminder. It's like, okay, so how do I want to live my life now? Like,
Yes. Yeah.
and so I'll pause there. But yeah, I just wanted to give some background because it was helpful for me to understand why did I become a certain way. And then
Mhm.
also like the reminder, like, but you're not that person anymore. You don't have to be if you don't want to be.
Right, right. Yeah.
So yeah, what comes up
Yeah.
for you?
Well, so when I work with clients also, I do some work with the inner child and soothing the inner child, but
Mm,
it is all focusing on what's coming up for you now. How are you feeling now? And some of that
mm,
does relate to the past, but again, soothing those feelings now and realizing you're not that 13-year-old or 6-year-old or 7-year-old anymore, and
mm,
coming into the now, and that you
mm,
are safe. And this overthinking that you've used, there's nothing wrong, like not making yourself wrong about things, but that it's okay. But you don't need to do that anymore. You don't need to try and feel like you're controlling everything to keep yourself safe, that you
Mm.
are safe. And again, it it calms that nervous system, brings you into that now moment.
Mhm.
And there's so many great tools, also breath work for coming into the now moment, soothing the nervous system and
Yeah.
calming that. And yeah, and allowing those emotions too, not making any of your emotions wrong. That's a big thing that I stress with clients. Let yourself feel it. Don't push away or resist the emotion. Allow the emotion. Just let yourself feel it, because it's energy that wants to move.
Mhm.
And then once that energy moves, you'll feel that, and then you can move to what you do want to feel. And it may be just getting to relief or ease at that point, but then getting to where it is that you want to be. And in, like, I guess going back to back to childhood too, I know I was very sensitive, and I was the only girl in my family and the youngest. So it was always like, you're a crybaby, you're such a little girl. And so I felt like it wasn't okay to feel my emotions. So I would stuff them down. And just like you said, like using the mind to control, to feel safe. And it just became a habit, a way of being, and not making myself wrong about it, but just like you said, having that compassion for myself, that was my coping mechanism, and it's okay. And I actually, in a hot seat with Abraham Hicks, I actually talked to them about the overthinking and letting go. It was a really fun conversation. And at one point, they did say, well, it is logical though. It's okay to use logic because the law of attraction is logical. And so they were talking about, the emotions and the thoughts and the feelings, because the more we think those thoughts, it attracts more of those. And so you get in that habit, and you get kind of in that rut, that way of thinking. And so having that awareness allows you to, okay, put the brakes on. I'm going to go down a new path, a different way of thinking and being. And relax my nervous system for one thing. That's a huge sense of relief and ease. And just let go of the overthinking, because again, we don't need to figure out the how. And realizing, being in the now, you are safe, getting out of that fight or flight, that safety mode. You are safe, and source always has your back. And you don't have to figure everything out. You have infinite intelligence always at your beck and call, 24/7. And when we're stuck in our mind, we're not using that. We're kind of, we've got these blinders on and only seeing what's right in front of us, and not realizing, oh wow, there's all of this available. And a part of it's just like a stepping back, like, okay, I'm okay, and all is well, everything is okay and working out for me. And again, to use an Abraham Hicks term, my inner being is always here with me. My inner being knows my desires. And again, realizing everything is working out. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's really a relief.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. Um, yeah, for just sharing how you found compassion for yourself, and yeah, just the remembering, that we do have whatever, whatever you call it for you, whether it's like soul, Holy Spirit, inner being, whatever, whatever kind of label resonates for you and your that inner voice, it's often been called that still small voice. So however you label that for you, like the calm one, the one that just sounds very wise, not the one that seems chaotic and
Yes. Mhm.
so yeah, whatever you call that for you, yeah, thank you for the reminder that we do. I mean, I feel that we all have that because I haven't really met anyone who says that they don't have it. Some people say they have it and they don't really listen to it, but everyone I've met is like, yeah, no, I know what that is. Uh, so I have no doubt that we all have it if we're willing to like tune in and listen.
Mhm.
Uh, and then also real quick before we move on, I just wanted to share just a little side note of something that really encouraged me because when you were talking about you being the youngest and the only girl in your family, like I was so encouraged the other day. And I just want to bring it up because it just again it was so encouraging and it's just like a cultural note. I was at a rec center. I was actually watching some of my nieces and nephews in a gymnastic class, and at the rec center in the lobby they had like this banner on the wall, and it was something along the lines at the top. It said, how we can support women and children, and it had all of these like lists of like behavior that's kind of toxic, and it was like, just point out like this stuff is kind of toxic. Can we like, it was kind of like, can we let this go? And one of the things it said was, it's really not kind to say something like quit being like a girl because
Mm.
it puts down women. It
Mhm.
puts down, girls and women. It makes them seem like less than. And then it also like to boys, it just basically says like you're weak. And it's like, so it's kind of like, can we stop saying things like that? Like, and I was just like, oh my, it just encouraged me. It was like, this is at a rec center. Like, it was like these conversations, like these conscious conversations are happening. And so it was like, it just really encouraged me when I saw that. I'm like, oh, like more people are seeing that this stuff just is not, it's not nice, it's not kind. So,
Yes.
anyways,
And especially kids at that age, they're picking up so much. They're forming these lifelong beliefs, and not that they can't be changed because a belief is just a thought you have over and over, but
yeah,
you really are in those years from 0 to 7 or 9, in that range. You're really forming your personality and your way of being, and it's so important, that conscious awareness.
yeah, yeah. So again, just wanted to share something that really encouraged me. I'm like, oh man, this stuff is getting out there. Like people are talking more about this stuff. Uh, from there, I just was kind of curious. I want to lead us into what we do in our lives nowadays. I know you talked about things like breath work to bring yourself more into the now moment and just soothing the nervous system, things like that.
Mhm.
And so those are great. And then I'm just kind of curious. I feel like it would be helpful for us just to talk about what we do if we still catch ourselves overthinking. And I'll just begin real quick and then I'll toss it back over to you. So for me, the first thing that's key is just really snapping out of it, if that makes sense. Just like kind of like becoming aware, like I'm just laying here or I'm just sitting here and this thing is just spinning.
Mhm.
So I just become aware. I'm like, okay, this thing is spinning. It's like it doesn't understand the how. It's trying to find the how. Uh, it's asking questions like, am I missing something? Is there something different I should be doing? Like, am I missing a clue or something? Is there some action that I'm not seeing I should be taking? It's kind of like that stuff. And so the first step for me is just the awareness, like, oh, like, it's spinning and I'm just kind of sitting here while it spins. So as I become aware, I'm essentially like, okay, like I'm aware, like this is what's happening, like I'm more in the now moment. I'm less in that wheel of trying to
Mhm.
figure it out. And as I become present, I do like to start to feel and connect to my body. Just, what does my body feel like in this moment? Another thing that's been really helpful is actually to feel any textures that my body's connected to. So if I'm sitting in a chair, I like to feel the sensation of how the chair feels on my skin. Even if I have clothes on, I'm just like, what does this chair feel like right now? And what's the temperature of the air? And when I bring myself more into sensations, I start to kind of come out of thinking, and I'm more in presence, more in the senses, and the senses are here and alive in the now moment. Like my senses can feel the temperature of the air, they can feel the temperature of my body. And so, and looking around, like, what's in the room that I'm in. I know that's a commonly talked about one, like, where am I? Like, what's actually going on in this moment? And those things do actually help me begin to withdraw from like the spinning wheel of
Mhm.
thinking and really just be like, okay, I'm here. I'm here. Like, I'm here. And what does it feel like to be here now? And from that place, I tend to really just begin to ask myself, like, okay, if I was going to take a next step in my day, like what just feels like the next best step? Because that's actually all that's in front of me. And, it could be any number of things. It could be realizing that I'm thirsty. And it's like, okay, let's get up and get some water because that's going to be helpful. you
Mhm.
know, or is it, it would be nice to get some fresh air because when I change my environment, I start to come out of thinking. And, like I become again more in the, oh, there's birds, there's squirrels, like these things draw me more into the moment and take me out of thinking. And so that's like a key first step for me is as I come more into my senses or sensing the environment as it is now. And I begin to feel my body, I breathe, bringing my attention to my breath is helpful. Once I'm more aware and present, I really do just ask myself, like, okay, but I'm here now. So what really does feel like the next best step? And, you know, sometimes it could be like, I think I'm ready to send that email. I've been holding off and I'm ready to send that email. Like that feels really good right now, and that just kind of gets me like moving, more active in the now moment, and again pulls me out of the thinking. And it's just, and then when I'm more in the sensing, when I'm more in the now, then I'm more in feeling. And when
Mhm.
I'm more in feeling, then my day just starts to feel like I know how to best show up in my day, because it'll be like I feel like this is the next best thing. I feel like that, I feel like that's pulling me right now. And so then I'm back more in feeling and less in like strategizing and and
Mhm.
trying to figure it out. So that's really helpful for me. I just wanted to bring in some practical conversation about how I navigate this. What about you? Are things that you do that help you?
Yes, and I think, it first started with meditation, just
Okay.
slowing down the thoughts. Of course, you're not going to stop your thoughts, but you're slowing them down and being more aware of them so that you can be kind of that conscious observer seeing the thoughts. And and I love how you talked about the sensing and feeling, because that's what's helped me even more the last couple of years. That's really been the progression of being more in that sensing and feeling, and using things like the body and this calibration process, actually, that I learned from Gina Mallison and use a lot with my clients. It is a very sensing things. What am I feeling? And assigning tactile things of how does it feel in my body, and what's the temperature of it? Is there a material or texture? What's the color? And that really brings you into the present moment with it, and sensing and feeling, and then just changing attributes about it. So that's really releasing the resistance and allowing it to transform. So it's really with those emotions, allowing yourself to feeling it, not resisting it all, not judging yourself or the emotion. That's a huge thing. And then, releasing resistance in these different ways. And also for myself, so one of the things I've been doing lately is this mastermind group. So we just finished one of the mastermind groups that I was doing. And part of that, we did this tuning to emotions process every morning. So it's picking three emotions, and we get into the sensing and feeling of it, going through this process of going into your body. Where do you feel that? Come up with, if images come to you, if colors, songs come to you. So it's really getting into that now and the feeling of it. And realizing that, so we're really tuning to emotions to tune your vibration. You're like giving your vibration a tune up. So if you think of your vibration and your frequency as this energy around you, so we're tuning that energy around you. And I have really found with this process that this tuning, if you think of, this energy around you, the voices, those thoughts, that come in are better and better feeling thoughts. And if I do get those negative thoughts or the doubting thoughts or the what if or figure this out, I catch those a lot sooner. And because I've tuned my vibration, it's much easier to pivot or realize, oh, that's an interesting thought, but I'm not going to entertain that. I'm not going to entangle with that thought. I'm going to just allow that thought and let it just go right by me. I'm not going to like push against it and resist it and think, why is that coming? Or again, entangle with it and think more thoughts. So it's more of this downward spiral. It's just, oh, well, that's interesting. And I'm really not, but I'm not interested in going down that path because I know that all is well. Everything is working out for me. I don't need to figure it out. And this has had a huge benefit for me and all the people in the mastermind group. They've really commented how that daily tuning has made a big difference for them. And another thing too is, I've done a lot of work with myself, this, whatever, if you want to call it your inner voice or channeling for myself of if a question does come up, oh, I really want to like kind of still figure that out or wonder about that. Oh, I'm going to go into my own session and ask my own inner voice and get these answers that come through. And a lot of times it will take me down a path that I had never even thought of. But that's being in that alignment and allowing that, your inner being, your inner voice, your inner wisdom, whatever you want to call it, that guidance that is not going to come from your thinking mind. It's really when you release the resistance, when you're in that receiving mode and you're in that receiving. And so for some people, they can get really deep in meditation, and that's when those answers come through or those thoughts come through when you stop thinking about it. And for me, I have found, these other methods work even better for me. I do some meditation. It's shorter meditations, just, to kind of, it's still good to have that practice of being in the present moment, noticing your thoughts, being in your body, connecting with your breath. I love breath work. But I have found like the calibration process and the tuning process has really, really been valuable. And, something recently that came up for me, I found out my landlord was going to sell my condo. And so it was kind of abrupt. Because I had decided, oh, I love it where I am in Miami Beach. I'm close to the beach. I've wanted this community and really been meeting a great group of people here. And I thought, oh, I'm going to stay here. And then the next week I found out, oh, my landlord is going to sell. So I've got to find a new place by the end of the month. And that was just a couple of weeks ago. I'm actually moving this weekend. And right away, well, and I allowed myself to feel the emotions because, there was some frustration coming up, some irritation. Just allow myself to feel that, get back to ease. And then, okay, well, what is it that I want? And also I had a couple of friends here staying with me the couple of weeks before and really appreciating where I live. So I was already in that appreciation mode and this and more, and just releasing it and realizing I don't need to figure out the how. I'm not going to get into panic mode of let me contact everyone I know and start pounding the pavement, looking at places. This is all working out for me. The perfect place is going to come to me. And I talked to my realtor and he said, oh, well, there's a couple places, units in your building available. I looked at the first one. It was a no. And the first one, it's like, oh, this is exactly my apartment, but with a better view, upgraded furnishings, and had several of these things that I had actually just been talking to my friend. Oh, I wish, there was like an auto lock on my door. I wish there was, some upgrades in the bathroom. And I wish there was like a really nice TV. So when I do want to watch movies, this place has all of those. So realizing, and in the beginning, uh, there was still a little bit of contrast, and it's okay. It is okay to have those feelings, but then realizing I don't need to get in the what ifs and da 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 da. Let me get clear on what it is that I want and realize that everything is working out for me. And another thing that's really helped me also is when my mind gets in that kind of, if it gets in the doubting or thinking about what, negative things, I stop myself and ask, what is it that I do want? So it gives your mind something to think about, but from a positive, oh, what do I want? What is my desire? And having that clarity of desire and then releasing that. Oh, that's my desire. Okay, I can have that. I don't need to figure out how. I can just let it go because infinite intelligence is always bringing that to me. And just allow. That's all that's left to do. To do, not even doing. It's just like,
Yeah.
again, stand back, let it come.
Yeah. I love that. Thanks for sharing that real life example. And yeah, it's always so interesting to hear these stories, how in the beginning it's like, yeah, the mind doesn't understand. It can be like, why is this happening? Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
inconvenient, like stuff like that. And I like that you said that you allow yourself to feel whatever emotions come up. And it's just kind of fun. It's fun when you hear the stories where it's like you get to hear the other part, but you can kind of see why it did happen. Because, as you said, you're like, you were wanting more. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, because this happened, it's like now you're getting the more.
Yes, yes. And then it's that fun thing about, oh, I did do that. I did that. I had that desire. It wasn't even a big desire because I thought I was going to stay where I was. And
Yeah.
it's like, nope, we have something even better for you. And it can be easy. The move is going to be super easy. It's in the same building.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing. Well, yeah, it's so cool to hear how like, you just were casually like, yeah, I want this and I want that. And then like
Mhm.
your reality, your universe started to move, be like, oh, that can be arranged.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And then, there is the human part that in the beginning sometimes it doesn't quite see, like it's like,
Hmm.
wait, what's happening here? Like this isn't, it can be like this isn't what I asked for, but then, you get however many steps down the road and you're like, oh, it actually is what I asked for.
Right. Yes, exactly.
uh, there was something else that stood out to me. Oh, I was gonna say that, yeah, I love just that you brought up how, being relaxed, letting it go. What do I want? Getting that
Mhm.
clarity, um, allowing yourself to come to that clarity, and then kind of releasing, attachment. I love all those things. And then I was just gonna add that, one thing I found, and I feel like I know that you and I both know the works of Frank Butterfield. I feel like
Mhm.
I've heard him mention this too, is that it's like we can take action, like if we want to, if it feels good to take action, it's just more about where the energy behind it. So to me, it's like if we're coming from stress, if we're coming from it's not going to be okay, like, I have to figure this out, that can be a lot just on the body, the nervous system, that is very just stressful to me in the way I was just talking about it. And to me, then there's I mean, there's obviously more than two options, but the other option to me is like when you are more in that, like, okay, somehow this is going to work out. Like, I don't know how, but this is going to work out, even though I can't see it right now. If it just feels like, I think I would just like to look just to see what's out there. Like, I don't know,
Mhm.
it's been a while since I looked. So let me just look because I'm curious. And I don't need to sit down and say I'm going to look for 2 hours or anything like that until I like find something. It can just be like, you know what? I don't really know. So let me just see what's going on. Like you said, you talked to your realtor. That sounded like an easy step for you. So like if it feels good to take a step just from like, I don't know, it feels good to take this step. So I'm going to take it. I have seen the benefit of that for me. To me, it's just a really is important about the energy behind it. Like, is it from
Mhm.
stress and trying to control, or is it from, like, I don't know, like it feels good to do something, so I'm just gonna check it out. I'm just gonna see. I'm not gonna try to control, but it might just be nice to know some details that I don't know now or some options that I don't know now. So it's more from the curiosity of like, let me just check some things out. Who knows what I might find?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have another fun story that happened recently. I followed this inspiration to go to Charlotte. I hadn't been there in a couple of years. I used to live there before Miami. And I thought, well, and I wanted to go for spring because I miss the springtime. Charlotte is beautiful in the spring and fall. And while I was there, I thought, I'm going to go check out my storage unit. I still had stuff in storage there.
Mhm.
I don't really know what I'm going to do with this stuff. I don't really have a plan. But then a friend offered to help me. So before he came, I thought, okay, what is it that I want? What do I want? And so I very lightly had this thought, what would be great is if someone would come and say, I want to just buy all this stuff from you. A newlywed couple, someone first time homeowner that just, needs almost a whole house full of stuff. And so we were at the storage unit and my friend was like, what are you going to do with all this stuff? And and I was in a little bit of a wobble. I was like, I don't know. But then another friend called and said, well, I'll just stop by and check it out. And we started talking, and he said, well, I could take this and I could take that. And I said, what would really be great is if you take everything and just pay me a lump sum. And he said, okay, I'll do that. I'll have it cleared out by the end of the month, and I'll take everything to my house so you can still go through it and keep the things like the memorabilia and things that you want to hold on to, but the rest I'll just take. Like, oh my God, like that was so easy. I'm still kind of in awe of that. That was so easy.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it was a very light thought and letting it go.
Yeah. Well, to me, it just reflects there's just the simplicity of not trying to control it. It's
Yeah.
more like you know your preference, and then you're just kind of like, well, let's just see, like let's just see. And it also stood out to me that you were able to communicate your preference, when it came down to it, you were able to speak like, actually, this is what I'm looking for.
Yes.
You didn't know if they were going to say yes or no, but at least you were able to say like, this is what I really, this is what I'm
Yes.
really looking for. And then
Hmm.
at least it gives them the opportunity to take it in and respond. And it's cool that in this case, they're like, yeah, okay, I can work with you.
Sure. Yeah.
So, yeah, yeah, just the clarity. What keeps standing out to me is that you're really good about just inviting the clarity. It's like, what do I really want in this situation? I don't know necessarily what's going to happen, but I can be clear about what my preference is. And then I like that when you're clear, you kind of just become relaxed about it. You're like, let's just see.
Mhm.
I'll keep communicating and being true to myself along the way. Like even with your realtor, I'm sure you said like, I would imagine you said, well, this is kind of what I'm looking for. And, it sounds like they were like, well,
No,
actually, it's right there.
my realtor, he's the one that also rented this place to me. So
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't even reach out. Like he was just like, oh, well, there's a couple other units available.
Okay.
And in my old, way of thinking, I would have been like, I need to like research everything, see what else
Yeah.
is out there, da 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 da. But there was just this calmness of I can let I can let this be easy. It's going to
Nice.
be easy. I want ease. And that's
Mm,
something too. We've tuned so much to ease in that mastermind group of just let it be easy.
mm. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and the real life examples are amazing because it's wonderful to talk about this stuff in theory, if you will, and then the real life examples to me are just like the true testament. And I mention this often, especially as of late, because when I first in one of my first few channeling sessions, because in the beginning I just kind of did it for friends, and my friends were very like, "Holy cow! Like this is an amazing talent that you have." And one of the first things that in those first few sessions, what came through was that a lot of people that are like living these more conscious lives and understanding their power, the power of thinking and beliefs and all that, it's said that what these people are going to be doing is that they're going to be collecting a lot of life experience, like real life experience, and then speaking from that place to be like, yeah, I can tell you the theory about how this stuff works, but let me tell you about the real life experience that happens when I started making these shifts and changes. The main point was that it's real life experience that speaks the loudest. And so it was like, that's what you're going to be accumulate is all these cool life experiences, so that when people ask you like, well, does this work or does that work, like these different conscious things, does it really work? You'll have real life stories to be like, well, this is what it did for me. And the real life stories just are what they are. They're real life experience. And later on, I started to hear Abraham Hicks say the phrase that words don't really teach, life experience does. And so I feel like your stories are exactly that. You're like, well, I can talk about this stuff in theory, but actually, like, look at how it works in my life.
Yes. And that's the fun when you see, oh, this really is working and it was so fast and it was easy and
Yeah,
yeah, it's awesome.
yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, thank you again. Yeah, I love the real life stories. They're so powerful. Uh, well, kind of as we begin to move towards wrapping up, yeah, I'm just kind of curious. Any insights you'd like to offer? Just again, just in terms of like practicality, overthinking, just any kind of things that come to you in this moment that you just want to pass on that have been helpful to you in your life or even as of late? Just kind of curious.
Yeah. So something else that was coming to me is that one of the other things, and I don't know if you can hear the drilling, there's a little bit of construction going on here, but
Gotcha. Gotcha.
um, one of the things in the overthinking for me was the perfectionism and
Mm,
feeling like I needed to be perfect. And that led to a lot of like just being critical of myself and beating up on myself and really letting go of that nothing needs to be perfect. I don't need to be perfect. Other people don't need to be perfect. That, just this acceptance and not beating up on myself. And that's
mm,
something I really work with clients on too, is just not let go of beating up on yourself. Have that self-love and compassion. Yeah.
mm, mm. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. The second you started to speak about that, I was like, oh, I'm so glad that you're bringing this up because, again, like that's a big thing for me too, is
Mhm.
especially in my all this stuff began to shift for me when I turned 30. When I turned 30, I started going down like the self growth, the self healing, self empowerment, all of that. And so I began to learn all these conscious, techniques and practices. But prior to that, in my 20s, I was highly perfectionistic. Like, I was just like, I need to do everything right. I need to like be excellent at everything. I need to have everything under control. Like, everything needs to be perfect. So I definitely relate to that as well, and I'm sure many other people that are familiar with the what we call overthinking probably have at least some of that, if maybe not a lot of that, in their background as well. So yeah, so key is yeah, just noticing like, am I being harsh on myself? Like, how am I treating myself? And this actually came up. I was recording a course with like another person in this industry, and there was a module where I had said something, to the degree of one of the things that's helped me is if I notice that I'm being critical of myself or whatever is judgy, it's been helpful to be like, would I treat someone else like this? Would I let this dialogue be, like come out of my mouth to someone else? And the answer will be like, no, this is actually like very critical, very like putting myself down, like, and uh, and so that helps me to be like, would I allow this kind of dialogue to, would I say this to someone else? And like pretty quickly, it's like, no, I wouldn't. Like it would feel kind of, it would feel like harsh. It would feel like really critical, like maybe even mean. And so that helps me kind of be like, well, okay, let's take a step back. Like, this is not helpful. Putting myself down, having impossible to meet standards, like, and all the pressure that comes with that. It's like, oh, this is not healthy. So like you said, coming back to the compassion, the ease, like let's be kind, let's be considerate. Like, how do I soothe myself and just come back to the now and let the pressure go? That's been an ongoing practice for me. So thank you for bringing that up because I'm sure other people can relate. So uh, that's a good one. I'm sure we could do like a whole thing on perfectionism if we wanted to. But thank you for at least bringing it up in this conversation just so we could touch on it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a big thing that you said too is that realizing there's no right or wrong, because
Yeah.
that was part of my analysis paralysis of I need to get it right. That
Yeah.
there was like this need to get it right, and realizing, oh, there's no right or wrong. And if you make one decision and figure out later, oh, I want something else, no big deal. Make another choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Just it's
Very free.
yeah, like life experience, no matter which route we no matter which route we take, it just offers feedback. It offers
Hmm.
data. It's like, oh, okay. And I also like to I love it again when people say things because again, like I do feel like a lot of people are more aware of their intuition than they give themselves credit for.
Yeah.
Because I'll hear people say things like, "Yeah, I knew deep down, but I didn't listen to myself, and I went that way, and I did not go the way that I wanted it to," or like it backfired. And it's like, okay, so a part of you did feel like there was a better choice. You didn't decide to lean in, and you still got feedback. Like having had that experience, like I kind of knew deep down, but I didn't listen. I went that way instead. Then this happened. Didn't really like what happened. It's like that's experience. That's feedback. And it's like, going forward, maybe you'll just slow down a little bit. Maybe you'll like, okay, like I do feel what's better. Like, am I gonna honor that this time? What am I gonna do this time? You know? It's like it's all feedback, it's all experience. And then what we do with the experience and the feedback is up to us. But that's what I love is that no matter which way we go, we're gonna get some kind of feedback.
Yes, it's so true. Yeah. So
uh,
good.
Well, this has been so much fun. It's always a good sign when you are at the end and you're like laughing because,
Yes. Laughter is always good. Yeah. And that's something too of just not taking yourself so seriously, just allowing yourself to laugh at yourself, laugh at life, just lighten up in general.
yeah, I agree. I agree. I've been having a few conversations in the past couple days that are about all of this type of stuff, self growth and all that. And by the end, like we're just like laughing because we're just like, okay, let's just like be easy about it all. So, uh, So thank you again, and to you, Amanda, for being here. I love having these chats with you and everything that we find along the way. And again, if you're on the replay, just know that if you want to know more about Amanda, you can find the link to her website in the description. Same thing for me if you want to know more about me and how it is that I'm in service to others. Both of our links are in the description. And then I just want to give you the opportunity, Amanda, because you mentioned that you did write it's an ebook, right, on overthinking?
Yes. So the ebook is available on my website. You can download that for free.
Okay.
And also I mentioned the mastermind group, and I'm starting the next round of the mastermind that will start on May 16th
Okay.
and go for 8 weeks. And it's so powerful. Being in part of an uplifting community and doing
Yeah.
this together, just it heightens that energy even exponentially. It's so
Mm.
much fun.
I agree. I agree. I'm actually in this really cool course right now that it's on the subject of like money and finances, and it's actually by Kate Northrup. Some of you may know that name. She was saying the same thing. She was just like, when we do this together as a group, she's like, it's way more powerful.
Yes, yes, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, so cool. So yeah, again, you have Amanda's website as a starting off point, and you can find all the things that she has available there, again, in the description. So thank you so much for tuning in. Again, appreciate the live viewers and comments. If you want to leave an aha or something that sparked you in the comments on the replay, that's always welcome too. I love to see what people get from these things. So thank you so much for watching, and hope you found some value. And hopefully we'll see you all again soon. Much love
Bye.
and
Thanks,
namaste in the
Beau.
meantime.
All right, bye.